The black dog. We usually think of black cats, black panthers, and black dogs as rather ominous creatures associated with witchcraft or haunts, baying in the night, or leopards leaping upon you in the dark. But Miss Ripley assured me that black dogs, even ghostly ones, were benevolent creatures who looked after lonely travelers, provided of course that the travelers were well intentioned and pure of heart. I met Miss Ripley when I came to live in Missouri in the early 1970s. She had rooms in the old wing of the Royal Hotel above the Library Bazaar, and I was living in a small cottage near Kempty village, just above the waterfall. The village was some 3 or 4 miles from the town, and in those days there was no motorized road, just a steep footpath going up through fields and an oak forest. I visited the Royal quite often. I liked talking to Miss Ripley, an upright, active 70-year-old who regaled me with the stories of her childhood in the west of England and her grown-up years in the Missouri and the Doon Valley. She had a lot of folklore at her disposal, ranging from mermaids of the coast of England to three-spirit and fairy glens in the Himalayas. Another friend at the Royal was Mr. Lobo, who played the piano every evening in the lounge or ballroom. He was always ready to oblige me by playing some nostalgic old number of my choice, September Song or I Kiss Your Little Hand. After a couple of whiskies at the bar, I did head home, torch in hand, because the path to Kempty was dark and full of shadows. I was usually home by 8. A boy from the dhaba across the road would bring me something to eat, green beans from the village, cooked with potatoes, or a small fish from the little river below Kempty. The place was then still something of a wilderness, not the messy tourist destination that it has become today. One day, I was invited to a small party being given by a well-known newspaper editor who was staying at the Royal, Sasi Sinha of the Diplomat. He had been publishing some of my short stories in the Sunday magazine. I knew the party would only get started around 8, so I left home later than usual, just as the sun sank behind the Chakrata Range and dusk fell softly across the valley. The walk took me through a cultivated area, then on a path through a mixed forest, and finally through the oaks and pines below the Missouri Ridge. From the beginning, I was aware that I was being followed by a dog, a large black creature of no particular breed. This did not bother me, as I was used to the village dogs, most of whom were rather scrawny, timid specimens. They barked a lot but kept their distance. This dog, taller and larger than most, did not bark at all. He made hardly a sound as he padded on, occasionally looking right and left, but never in my direction. And unlike most dogs, he made no effort to get to know me. I too kept my distance. I was not afraid of the dog, but I could tell that he was different from other dogs, and I refrained from making any friendly overtures. When I got to the hotel entrance, I was met by Miss Ripley and her little terrier, Fluff, who had been barking furiously at my approach. "Did you have a dog with you?" she asked. "I thought I saw a large black dog accompanying you." "You did?" I said, looking round. "It's gone now. One of the village dogs probably, but it did not bother me." Miss Ripley did not attend the party, which was quite a noisy affair. A lot of liquor was consumed. There was some singing and dancing, and Mr. Lobo was kept busy at his piano. "Your check is in the mail," said Sasi Sinha, in connection with the most recent story I had written for his paper. "I'm sure it will reach eventually," I said politely, quite accustomed to checks being inordinately delayed and sometimes even vanishing in the mail. It was almost 11 o'clock when I bade my host good night and left the party. I may have been a little unsteady on my feet, but the moon had risen over the mountains and I could see the path distinctly, even without the help of my torch. And there was that dog again. It loped along beside me, sometimes in front, sometimes to my left or right, never too far, never too close. Even when I quickened my pace, I could not catch up with that elusive but ever present dog. It looked real enough, a tall black horn, quite at ease in the forest, familiar and yet unfamiliar, staying away from me and yet so near. It took me almost an hour to get home, and the dog was with me all the way. Finally, I was there. I opened the gate, unlocked my front door, and looked around. The black dog had gone, and I never saw it again. So, what was so special about my experience? I wondered. A dog had followed me up to the town and back again, and had then disappeared. True, it was a strange sort of dog, remote and uncommunicative, and I had never seen one quite like it. But it had been real enough, padding beside me in the dark forest, and for some reason, I couldn't put the black dog out of my mind. Several months later, I was at the Royal Hotel's bar having a drink with a couple of new acquaintances, one of whom was the chief warden of Haridwar jail. The conversation turning to crime and criminals, the warden turned to me and said, "You are Mr. Bond, the writer, aren't you? Do you realize that you had a narrow escape from being waylaid and drubbed, possibly even murdered?" "First I've heard of it," I said. "Well, there are two under trial down in Haridwar who were caught after breaking into the local bank, and they were overheard talking about a plan they had to follow and rob you while you were on your way to this very hotel or on your return sometime last year." "Really? But why?" I asked. "I'm hardly prosperous enough for it to be worth someone's while to rob me. You are so well known in the town that they must have assumed you are very prosperous." The chief warden smiled. "Anyway, they followed you all the way from Kempty and back again. But you had this large dog with you, and they were very reluctant to take on both of you at the same time. Very wise of you to keep a dog. Is it a Labrador?" "I don't keep a dog," I said, "but there was one with me that night, a big black dog. I had never seen it before, and I have never seen it since." Mr. Lobo had been listening to our conversation. "A guardian spirit," he said. "We don't always recognize them, but they are always there." Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe our channel for more upcoming videos.